Hi everybody, it's Dr. Marsee here. I just wanted to talk a little bit about, where we're at. You've completed week 1. I realize it was kind of a hefty week. There's a lot to be done in that first week to get us situated and to get us moving forward on the types of reading and identifying things in your articles that needed to be done so that we could move forward. In this 14-week model, we have to move just a tiny bit faster at first, but things will kind of even out as we move forward. Now I'm starting here on our modules page. As you can see, just a reminder, this is where you can always go back to find resources and get an idea of what we're doing and where we're going. And then of course, always a reminder that you can find a link here of our textbook, things like APA formatting, and all of that kind of good stuff. In case you ever get a little bit lost or you're just not sure, you can always come back to the start here, resources and information for this class. And I'm sorry, mine visually is going to look a little bit different than yours just because I have a program that kind of makes it look a little bit different. Sorry about that. So this week was a super big week, right? Not only did you sort of get introduced to the class and introduce yourselves to each other and to me, but we dove right into finding an article and starting on this very guided practice of reading for claims and structure in a piece. So allow me just a moment to kind of provide a brief summary of what we've accomplished this first week so you can see how it transitions into the second week. So, again, clearly this past week, you learned a little bit about reading arguments, right? And how important it is for us to kind of slow down and really take a piece that we've read and really carefully work our way through it and consider what they have to say. And there are a few reasons for doing this. Is that number one, it helps us really identify and go deeply into their argument, so that we can truly understand what they're saying and why they are saying it. But more importantly, as you go through this process of reading these things in someone else's argument, it helps really allow you to understand then that when you are writing for an audience, that they will be doing that same careful reading to your material. So that can kind of impact your approach to writing. So we're seeing, you're engaged in the practice of being a reader right now because you're going to use that information later as a writer, so you can think about what it's like to be on the side of the reader and what you need to do to make this easy and clear for them. So it's kind of the whole point around all of this. So I would love if people gave me feedback on if this little calendar view is helpful for you at all or not. If you guys are finding it useful, please let me know. If you're like, I could really care less, let me know, and I won't throw them in there. You don't need one more thing to look at if it's not very helpful. So you began with the initial chapters of our online textbook. As you can see, this initial chapter 2 that we're dealing with, is all about reading to figure out an argument. So this chapter is all about going through the very careful, measured process of reading very carefully for claims and for the overall argument. So you started out you actually started out by choosing your article, if you may recall. And hopefully you guys all found an article that was kind of interesting, maybe different for you. And then you were asked to read them and to start looking for the kinds of claims the author produced. Now, first you were just introduced to claims in general, right? Claims of policy. And what I love is it gives you some ways that things may be phrased to help sort of give you the signals, right? That this is the kind of claim that's about to be provided. I also want to point out these are great models for you to use in your own writing to be able to talk about these same kinds of claims. It helps you develop a sense of how these are often articulated. Those aren't the only ways to do it, but it gives you some ways that people often situate or articulate, express these different types of claims. So you were asked to just kind of do a little check if you could understand what kind of claim this is, just so you kind of felt like, yeah, okay, I'm kind of getting it. And then you were asked to kind of check some claims out, see if you could find them in the world around you. So that's part of what that first exercise was this week, right? And then again, you've got your own reading that you looked into. And again, you started going in and looking for those claims in your own piece, right? So making notes on the writer's claims. And this is providing you a way to start going in and considering this. So going through each paragraph, you know, identifying a section of the class text where the claim is made, and then your notes on those claims, right? Like, what kind of claim is it? What do they seem to be saying? What do they seem to be doing by making this claim, right? Well, that's kind of what this section is leading you toward, and then giving you a little notes template to kind of help you move through that. All right, so you've looked at your own piece. You're able to identify different kinds of claims. You looked for those different kinds of claims in your article and started recording them, because this is eventually going to help you be able to summarize these articles for an audience who hasn't read them a little bit later in the next few weeks. So after you go through all of the claims, you try to decide what seems to be the big overall main claim the writer is making. And once you kind of realize that, then you can look to the other materials and decide, okay, well, what are some of the reasons this author gives that help support this main claim? You know, what are the reasons they feel this claim, this big claim they're making is true? And that's where we're, you know, going with the 2-4. It helps you identify what the main claim is. And I think these questions are super useful for that. And then finding the reasons for how the author is backing that up. And again, giving you some really great ways to articulate. Like, this is, you know, this is one reason. They say that one reason such and such should happen is because, you know, notice those wordings, the phrases that help articulate these ideas. All right. And that kind of, you know, wrapped things up for the week, as you kind of getting in there, and now you've got kind of the main big pieces of it, getting it figured out. Now we're going to start developing a little bit further, and you're going to take a look at the type of essay that you're going to be writing, because you are going to be writing in week 3 a summary essay yourself. So this week we're going to go dig a little bit deeper, and the first thing you're going to do is, now that you have kind of like the main claim and some of the other, you know, have been able to identify the reasons for it and some other claims, now you need to see what kind of counter arguments the author acknowledges and addresses. Now, every claim in the article is not necessarily going to also have a counter argument. It may be that depending on your article, the author's big main idea has a single counter argument that they address. So you just need to look at your piece and see what's happening in yours. Now, once you're able to identify that counter argument, then you are also going to want to examine how they respond to that counter argument. You're also going to be looking at the limitations the author makes on their argument. So for example, as opposed to maybe making a claim about all immigrants, they're making a claim specifically about immigrants from this area who are seeking refuge for these particular reasons. So that's an example of limiting your argument, right? So you're not just saying it's all, every, or none. You're providing some context, some limitations. And so that's one of the things you'll be identifying as well. And you will continue with your Google template and notes to kind of build, to expand on those ideas. And of course you have textbook chapters to help support you and walk you through that. Then we are going to be moving on to chapter 3. And this one is for you to just kind of read through so that you can get a sense of, how do I write a summary then? You know, now that I have been able to identify all of these main pieces, the counter arguments, the overall main idea, All right, well, she wants me to be able to summarize it and explain it to somebody who has not read that article. How do I do that? Well, that's what Chapter 3 reading introduces you to, is it shows you how to introduce the argument, again, giving you some phrasing, and you are going to want to incorporate this phrasing into your own summary. How to talk about the claims, right? How to articulate those pieces. How to describe them. How to describe and talk about the reasoning or reasons the author has provided. Well, she reasons that to support this perspective, the author points out this. So it just kind of gives you some ways to articulate those reasons, as well as how to articulate counter-argument. So you'll be going through all of these. Basically, you're going to be putting these all together so that eventually you're going to put it together and write your own summary. And you'll be writing a summary of your article this week using these techniques and this phrasing, and eventually using the example summary that she provides. So you're going to get a lot of modeling for all of that this week. So that's going to be one of the bigger, more important pieces that you do, is writing the summary of your piece, because that's later, that same summary is going to get used later in your actual essay. And then the last thing you'll do for the week is to look at some sample summary essays so you can get an eye of what you'll be writing the following week. And you'll be taking a look at those and sort of identifying what you notice about the structure of a sample summary. And I'll follow up, by the way, with an announcement kind of sort of outlining for you the basic structure of a summary essay. All right, that was a lot of talking. I'm sorry these normally won't be this long, but I know we're just getting started, and I wanted to feel like I gave you some context and sort of set up the situation for you. Normally these videos will only be about 4 minutes long, but I just kind of wanted you to feel confident going into this week. Please don't hesitate to ask me any questions, get in touch with me, and in the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful week.